their sled pushes were just crazy fast. You had, so one of the expected to be one of the fastest sled pushes was Ricky Garard, and he was a minute 59, which is absolutely blazing. That's 30 seconds per length on the sled push, and he was fifth in terms of how fast the sleds were. So it was crazy fast sled pushes in Sydney, but they had some interesting times. The women, the top woman was like 71 minutes, and the top men was James Kelly, who was like 7th or 8th in the world last year, and he was 59 something. So it seemed like the overall course was about the same as the World Championships course, but the sleds were crazy fast.
It's funny. I messaged the guy from Barbell Spin, because and he just put out something, by the way, about Ricky, and I didn't quite read it yet, but oh no, I sent him when we posted the results. We shared the results with UKHXR, otherwise known as Fitness Racing Podcast, and I said, hey, here's Ricky's first HYROX. He said, how would you rate that? Is he close to top 15? I said, it's hard. Sleds were light, which we anticipated. And he wrote, I thought everything was standardized. And it's like, there's HYROX for you in a nutshell, right? Like, there's the guy that covers CrossFit Living, who covers CrossFit for a living. He's like, what do you mean? So I was right. I said, well, clearly you don't follow my amazing HYROX content close enough. It's a major issue with HYROX. And he said, LOL. So yeah, so I do want to see. Let's quickly look at it. Let's just quickly look, because he did post.
I just pulled it up. I messaged Rich Ryan a couple weeks ago and asked him how he thought Ricky was going to do, and I told him I think he's going to go 62 to 63, and he went 62-21. So it was, which that is a really good first performance. I have to say, like, he was in third place most of the race, several minutes behind James Kelly and Chris Woolley, and Chris Woolley just broke down on the wall balls, ended up doing like 5.5, 6 minutes of wall balls, which just lost him his whole entire 609.
What was that, like Matt Davis territory?
Yeah, I mean,
just kidding. It took me 20 minutes. It took me 20 minutes the first time.
Oh, did it really? Okay,
yeah.
So it's only like 6 minutes of wall balls. He was only doing about 16 wall balls a minute, which, I mean, he was doing sets of 3. And Ricky went unbroken and caught him and passed him, which, I mean, if you can't do the last station, that's what happens. But he ran pretty well. It's just 62 is, I mean, that's a good first time. It's, you know, some of the elite guys, that was one of their first times. I think Dylan Scott's very first time doing it was like a 65. You know, the only person who had an amazing first time was Hunter, who was like just barely over 60. And I think that was one of the only times he's gone over 60. And he was racing against James Kelly, who did pretty well at the Elite 15. I was glad we had somebody in the Elite 15 that we could measure the course against to see how good the course was comparatively. But I don't think Ricky's gonna like attempt to go into the Elite 15. He said afterwards that, and it's exactly true, if he wanted to do this, he needs to work on his running. His run splits were, he started out, first off, their first run was like a 2:44, which means it was probably a short first lap, and I didn't see a long last lap to make up for it, which they probably just made up for it somewhere in there. But his runs were over 4.5 minutes each time, whereas like some of those elite guys are running 3:45. So he's losing like 45 seconds each run. And he's crushing the stations, but he's got a lot of running to do if he wants to get into that Elite 15.
Yeah, so this article is basically comparing, it's basically, the article is basically what you just said, talking about his runs being what they are, and it's comparing Hunter's world record time. And I guess he doesn't know that there's any differences in the sled, but it doesn't really matter for the purposes of this article. It's just a nice little kind of a quick comparing those two, because that's what people know. They know Ricky, they probably know Hunter. But I think I want to educate those folks as much as possible, the CrossFit folks. I said to you, I think in a message, it would be great if Ricky does really well and other CrossFitters can go, maybe I can win some money this way. Maybe it could be an off-season event. You know, who knows when off-season is now with all these other events, you know, Rogue and everything else. But yeah, I think that it was good for us, right? It would be better if it was in America, I think. It would have gotten more eyeballs.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
good for us.